So France 43, Wales the big fat 0. A big loss for Wales. France were just in a different league. They weren't actually amazing. They were just outclassing Wales. In my prediction show, I had said France would get 42 points. I was pretty close there, very close. For Wales, I thought they'd get a try or two. I said 12. They got 0, so it went a bit worse, but roughly in the ballpark for what I thought. I like to do match reports after the match because it helps organise my thoughts and talk about some of the themes of the match, and then I come back after with other videos to follow up on certain things. I think I'll do a bit of a review of the Wales team and just really see where those weaknesses are and what could they possibly do going forward. So let's get stuck into this match report supported by Sports News Blitz. Check out their website for great Six Nations content. And straight from the off, it was very interesting to see how France were defending. They let Wales roll through their phases, very little jackal or counter-ruck attempt. Occasionally they picked and choose, but really they're saying, Wales, we don't think you're really carrying enough threat in attack, so we're just going to stand off and see what you do. And largely that worked well, considering Wales scored no points. You say it worked completely. They ran out of momentum and then they kicked the ball away, which they did a few times. And then boom, France do something. Ramos, who was fantastic at fullback, booms a 50-22 early on. Dupont actually nearly scores straight away without hesitation, tapping a penalty from 10 metres out, but he's held up, so no grounding. But you can see that danger from France straight away, just as Wales ran out of puff in attack. Now, France are looking to speed up play, vary the direction of attack. It's not amazing. It does run into trouble at times, but there's some nice hands there and Dupont makes nice breaks. Ramos frees the winger, Atazogbi, who had a really good game. I think 4 or 5 caps for him. He had a good one. A nice jackal from Rafael saves that one, and Tommy Rafael was on early. And that was a big blow actually for Wales because they lost Wainwright to a blood injury and he never returned. So they didn't have much bulk in their pack to start with. Wainwright was there to make gain line. He went off. And I think they really suffered without him. So that was a bad stroke of luck, you have to say. Now let's talk about the Welsh shape in attack. And they varied it fairly nicely. Thomas Williams was looking sharp as expected. And they rolled through decent phases. A nice flat crossfield kick from Ben Thomas nearly finds Rodgers with Ramos backpedaling, so they could have done with something like that to stick, and that was one of the better chances of the match actually on 7 minutes. And they probably do play their best rugby in this opening 15 minutes. 2 good launch plays. One sees Rodgers go off a scrum from out to in. That's a nice line. Off a line out, they get a good platform, but Watkins pushes the ball very deep to Tompkins and he gets smashed, and that was Wales's big problem. They pushed the ball back very deep and France were waiting for that, pushing up hard, making tackles, getting nearly intercepts. They hack it through and it's a bit of a foot race, and this is quite telling because you've got Boudinot of France, the flanker, against Liam Williams, who should be a lot quicker than the flanker, but he's not. Liam Williams was really nothing in this game because he's just that bit older. He's lost his pace and, Wales are struggling in that position. They can't replace him, so they've put him back in and he's just not the player he used to be. Luckily, Boudinot knocks on and can't gather, or that would have been a try. Now, it's really interesting how the French attack simply just runs off Dupont. He literally makes everything happen. When it's messy, he just wanders across the pitch looking for a break or a kick or a grub or something like that. This time on 16 minutes, he does a nice weighted crossfield kick just as he's drifting across the pitch. It floats over Adams, who did get caught out a fair bit, I think, in this game. Sure, he didn't have too much help from inside, but wasn't a good look for him. Atazogbi picks up that nice simple try there, so just genius from Dupont even when the phases weren't going that well. So that's 7-0. Ramos slotted a load of really good conversions. I think he only missed one right at the end. So after a good opening 15 minutes, Wales then just start to fade. They needed to score in that opening 15, and that really just was the turning of the game. France's attack is a bit weird because they don't even really need Intermac a lot of the time, as Dupont is making all these plays, doing all the loops off the scrums. He frees Atazogbi yet again with one of those loops. And the phases, the power phases, are always over the gain line, so something's going to be on, and a nice pop pass from Dupont over Josh Adams for Biel Barry is just too good, and Adams is being absolutely peppered in defence, and because they're being held, the inside defence is being held, they can't drift and help him, and it's just a bad look. Simple stuff, so 14-0. And again, on 25 minutes, I make the note, France are happy to stand off in defence and let Wales do their thing, and again, it pays off as Ben Thomas chips to nothing straight to Ramos. And I think when they get that possession, they've just got to camp in the French third because they don't have the punch, but they could get a penalty. Something could happen. They don't really need to chip it away and rush, but that's what they were doing. Players that were impressing in this first half, well, I mentioned Dupont and Ramos. I thought the loosehead Gross was really good as well. He was making good ground tackling and jackling as well as his power work. And the newish winger Atazogbe is really impressive, and he's enjoying playing with Dupont, of course. For Wales, Thomas Williams is trying to make things happen. He's playing the ball quickly. Gareth Thomas was flying up in defence, making his trademark big tackle. So a few good signs. But then problems as Owen Watkin is injured. Dan Edwards has to go to 10, of course, comes on at 10. So Ben Thomas goes to 12. And that only muscle they had in midfield with Watkin is now off. And on 30 minutes, TMO spots something. It's hooker Evan Lloyd, who's a little bit high. Not a bad one, but a yellow card. And they just can't afford that as the French maul, 1 minute later, rolls through the 7-man Wales pack, who have to drop it illegally. They had to because it would have been a try. And then from a 5-metre line out, France should score, but they overthrow. Malvaca overthrows. So Wales dodge a bullet there, but not 2 minutes later. It's Dupont, of course, just going laterally across the pitch, looking for the pass. Now, you've got to be quick sliding out to cover him, but Dafford Jenkins isn't quick enough. We'll talk about him more in a follow-up video. He gets skinned. Dupont then just makes the break, turns on the afterburners, his 7's afterburners, and throws a little loop pass over the top to Atazogbe, who skates in and just loving playing with the best player in the world. 21-0, again, nothing particularly special team-wise, but they make a little bit of a break, and Dupont is the man who makes that tell. Now, just before half-time, there's 5 minutes of play that just sums up the game, really. Wales know they don't have the power to make the dents, but you've got to keep on trying because they're just giving up and pulling the ball deep behind, and the French are rushing up. Now, it's all a bit of a mess. Dupont creating more things. Grubber in behind this time. Dan Edwards tries to dive on it, but fumbles it, and Wales have to concede a 5-metre scrum. They're a man down, of course, so small winger Rogers has to pack down on the flank. Gross folds up Henry Thomas. It's a penalty. It goes worse and worse and worse. Then, of course, ridiculous vision from Dupont, who creates the bonus point try by lobbing a big loop pass over the top to BL Barry to step the fast-drifting Rogers. So that is 28-0. That is the bonus point. That is half-time. And really, they could have all gone home at that point. Obviously, Ramos slots an amazing conversion. Now, just after half-time, we actually see Wales' best attack of the game as Liam Williams finally gets the ball wide, flat this time, not too deep, skips it out to Adams, who breaks down the left wing inside to Morgan, more support, and Thomas Williams is there with quick ball when they're getting France march back for the first time, really. They go to a 5-metre maul, but then the subsequent runners after that maul are stopped dead. I think I count about 8, 9, 10 runners in a row pounding at the French 5-metre line, and none of them make it over. That's the problem there, and Jenkins eventually spills the ball. So that's the lack of power, showing they just couldn't finish when they were in a great position off a decent attack. And then just after that, France roll on the subs, and they literally roll them on because they're massive. It's 5 fresh forwards, and they replace Antoine Dupont just to take the mick, almost to say, we don't need our best player. We're going to save him for a harder opposition. That's literally what was happening. Lara Garek is an amazing star in his own right, but he's not Dupont yet. So that really was just saying it's all over Wales. And yeah, a little bit of an insult, shall we say, but I understand why they did it. On 51 minutes, Thomas Williams is just desperately trying to do something by himself. So he goes for a really wide loop play. But again, because Wales haven't gone forward first, France aren't committed, so they just drift and make a mess. Then on 52 minutes, Intermac does actually something decent. He's literally been drifting through the whole game, but he spots a hole and goes through it with some good acceleration. Azarati is fresh on, but he's just so slow. He can't get anywhere near it. Then some big carries from the likes of Klom. They get a maul. They pile over the line very easily. 33-0. I mean, Wales aren't coming back from this game, but I write at this point, the problem is the 0. It's demoralising. They've got to get something to take into next week. Anyway, 20 minutes to go. Still decent shape from Wales. Nicky Smith actually makes a couple of dynamic carries, which they haven't done, makes a couple of half breaks. The ruck speed is fine, but that's mainly because French, they're still not contesting most of these rucks. They're waiting for them to kick the ball away eventually, which they do, again. Wales do try and launch Morgan off some line-outs a couple of times, but then on 61 minutes, the clear-out is too slow for some reason. Elliot Dee is late to that ruck and has to croc roll someone off it in desperation, so that's a penalty. But France muck up the maul, and it has to be said that France's innovation from line-outs and maul plays was pretty much non-existent, but they didn't really need it, to be honest. Anyway, 65 minutes, Wales work the ball wide again, but again, too easy to drift. Ramos makes the tackle, gets up and counter-rucks. Brilliant game from Ramos. Josh Adams then gets upset and screams in the ref's face, so just loses another 10 metres on the penalty. And France go, thank you very much. The centre, Barassi, hits his best line of the match. The centre's fairly quiet up until that point, and Lagarec throws his trademark reverse spin pass out the back of his hand, and Intermac spots Gallaton wide out right on the left, and it bounces up fairly nicely for the try. So that is 38-0. With 10 minutes to go, Wales just keep trying to work the ball wide, but they're so deep. The first receiver is crazy deep. Then they go even deeper, so they're rushing up, but Intermac gives him a bit of a gift. He's had a weird game. He's kind of had a couple of good points, but really just a daydream of a game. And he stands upright and chucks a big shoulder into Ben Thomas's head. It's a yellow. It's pretty nasty. It's late. It gets upgraded later to a red. So he's off, and he's probably out of the rest of the tournament. I think on the performance, I probably would have replaced him anyway in the next game. Off that, Tompkins tries to power through off a line out, but he's just too lightweight, and he gets mobbed and held up. We have Blair Murray on to try and do something for Wales, but he has a disaster as well as he knocks on in his first carry, that's for sure. Freddie Thomas knows he has to force the issue and goes offside on a charge down and cops a yellow. A bit unlucky, but it was sheer numbers of team penalty, so he is off. The numbers are even, and the French get one final score there. Gouliard is absolutely massive. They put him on a back peel. It gets over the gain line. Aldry picks and goes. He's up against Blair Murray, who's pretty tiny, and powers through him very easily. So 43-0. Wales, they couldn't score. They actually save a last attack and work Morgan out wide, and he makes a good break, but no one's got the legs to go with him, so it stays 0. That's so painful. France were probably always going to win this game. They are just far too good player for player than Wales, but Wales, they should have scored, they should have converted something, but yeah, really struggled. 43-0, where do they go from here? So it finishes France 43, Wales the big fat 0. Where do they go from here? Please pop all those comments below. If you want to follow me for the Six Nations, please do. Please do subscribe. Please do like. That would be amazing. And I'll catch you next time.